Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 8th of November and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, let's start with the video. In the today's video, we are going to discuss the entire Hindu newspaper analysis. We will take the articles along with the background as well as the way forward. Now, before starting up, I would like to tell you that if you are new here, you can download the synoptic notes of the articles, and in these synoptic notes, all the issues that have been there, it has been given. These synoptic notes are provided on our Telegram channel, and the link for the Telegram channel has been given in the description box in YouTube. Moreover, you can visit the Telegram and can search there Thinking Palette by Sahil, and there you'll get the PDF notes, and in the last the mains practice question has also been given. Now, before starting up, first of all guys, let's take the overview of the entire newspaper to understand that actually which articles are important for the today's newspaper in the today's newspaper. First article talks about the Supreme Court in a majority verdict upholds the EWS quota. So this is one of our biggest judgment of the year that has come. We'll see this entire issue. Then governor alleges constitutional collapse in Kerala. So guys, in the past few days, many articles we have seen that how there is the governor versus chief minister and council of minister issue going on in the Kerala. So governor says that the chief minister are not adhering with the governor's decision, and governor will withdraw the pleasure, and the chief minister is saying that governor is not acting on the aid and advice. Now here the governor had said that some of his decisions are not being heard. However, understand this thing, the political dimension of this particular article is not important. Fine, academic dimension is important but not the political one. Then moving on, COP27 corporate or parish, will see this particular article. Then guys, after that, moving on in the city section, the regional issue etc., regional issue, political issues have been given. Okay, so moving on guys in this particular direction. Now here we can see that actually the two articles have come which is talking about the POXO. The POXO Act forces Adivasis in Nilgiris into conflict with law, and in below there is the article that the law panel must think the age criteria for the consensual sexual intercourse. Now basically these two articles, both of them become important with respect to the examination. We'll see them. Fine. Then guys, further moving on in this particular direction, Neel Kurunji withers but tourist inflows continue. So basically guys, when we talk about the Neel Kurunji, so Neel Kurunji flower, fine, it grows in the Kerala, in the Udupi, fine, and because of that there is a lot of tourist that comes there. Now the flower has dried, but now still the tourist inflows are there. So it has a big tourism potential, and in this particular direction the tourism will be explored. Then moving on, coming to the editorial page, the age of minimalism in India-Pakistan ties, we'll see that the frontliners of 1000 days, will good article. We'll see economics of exclusion. Now guys, this is an entire one article talking about the EWS reservation judgment that has come. We'll see that. Then India's G20 presidency, we'll see the article. India incorporations, again an important article. Just some trends have been given. We'll see that. The Black Sea Grain Initiative, we'll see the article with respect to the exam. Are Twitter's user leaving the platform for Mastodon? Now, not important article guys with respect to the examination. Find the pathetic fallacy of history of the one of the most commonly used literary device. Okay, so guys, now when we talk about the article, okay, the article, it is written in a literary sense. If you want, you can read that particular thing. But guys, with respect to the examination, UPSC, much substance is not there. However, in literary sense, if you want, you can. Then moving on, NPR needs to be updated again to incorporate changes due to birth, death, migration. So guys, NPR stands for the National Population of Register. Okay. Then moving on, after that guys, the political articles etc., no need to go there. Then the reservation policy cannot continue indefinitely, says Supreme Court. Fine. So the guys there, here this entire page is filled about the Supreme Court judgment that has come. We'll see that. Then further moving on, Jaishankar to meet Russian ministers on the Moscow visit. Fine. After that guys, electoral bond schemes amended sale for tomorrow. We'll see this electoral bond scheme and what has come there. We are on highway to climate hell. We'll see the article. Biden Trump rallies troop on the eve of crucial midterms. Not important article guys with respect to the examination. Then further moving on, single GST rate, direct tax, sans exemption will be ideal. Okay. Now guys, when we talk about the GST in India, in the India's GST, there are multiple criticisms that have been there. First of all, there are the multiple slab rates into the GST, which often complicates the tax system, and the idea to have a simple tax system, it has been defeated. So single GST rate, fine, having a single GST tax rate, it is something which can help in the direction. Then further moving on, manufacturing to sustain growth thrust for 6 to 9 months. Then guys, after that the corporate trends etc. has been given. Okay, so that is, after that we have then the sports page. So that is all guys about the overview of the newspaper, and now let's discuss all these relevant articles which contains the exam related substance one by one in the detail. Now before starting up guys, we take a GS quotation every day, and this GS quotation, it is important for the examination, as you can complement it with your answers. Now today we'll take the GS quotation from the Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams says, to give real service you must add something which cannot be bought or measured with money, and that is sincerity and integrity. Okay, so guys, we need to add something which cannot be bought by the money. Okay, and that is sincerity and integrity. This is the real meaning of the service. Now guys, when we talk about the service, now Gandhiji had said this particular thing, that to the serve others is the surest way to rediscover oneself. And when we talk about the notion of giving service, the notion of giving service means that there needs to be a self-sacrifice, there needs to be an utmost devotion, sincerity and integrity. This is something that is to be added in the service, and they are the essential components. This is a very good idea and directly can be used in the GS paper number 4 ethics. GS paper number 4 ethics. Fine. So please use it even in the GS paper number 4 topic number 1 ethics and human interface. It can be done. Now moving on guys, and let's take the first article. Now the first article today is very important, and here we have clubbed multiple articles which have come into the Hindu newspaper. All of them are talking about this this judgment of the Supreme Court only that has come. Now first of all, this particular article will be important for the GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2 polity, as well as within the GS paper number 2 social justice affirmative actions. Social justice affirmative actions, this particular article will be important. Now before going on this particular article guys, let me tell you in one line that what has happened. Basically the EWS reservation that was given, the reservation for economically weaker section that has been given, okay, that has now been upheld by the Supreme Court of India. Okay, now let's track this entire development from the start, and then we'll go in this judgment in this particular article that what has happened. So basically guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about India, India is a welfareist state, and India being the welfareist state entails that the social justice and reformatory justice are the essential and important components of the Indian Constitution. Now when we talk about the social justice, sometimes we need to provide a head start to certain communities which have been deprived into the past. Now when we talk about the India guys, for example the scheduled caste people. Now scheduled caste people, these are the people who have been treated with untouchability. These people have denied the education. These people have not been allowed to develop on the past. There are historical injustices that had happened. So the scheduled caste people have seen a lot of atrocities in the past. Then guys, the scheduled tribe people come. So the scheduled tribe people, they were not mainstreamed into the society. They had their own distinct culture, distinct tradition. Because of that, they were not able to develop on par with the mainstream. Then we have the OBCs, other backward classes. Now other backward classes, actually with them the historical injustice did not happen, but actually they were not emphasized either by the Britishers nor in the post independent India. So therefore they are also to be provided some kind of a head start. Now in guys, actually in order to provide the special assistance, in order to provide the special head start to some of the communities which have been historically deprived, there is the affirmative action. There is the affirmative action that is taken by the state, and within the affirmative action there are other many such kind of things can happen. For example, reservation is one tool amongst the the basket of the affirmative action. And therefore guys, we actually give the reservation to all. There can be, apart from the reservation, there can be preferences that can be given to them in certain sectors. There can be the scholarships that can be given to them, special assistance can be given to them, special welfare schemes can come. So actually one thing I want to tell you, that while you are writing the answers within the social justice, don't directly use the word reservation, use the word affirmative action, and within the affirmative action the reservation is given. So already guys, we were giving the reservation. Scheduled caste people, they were given the reservation of 15%. Scheduled tribes were given the reservation of 7.5%. OBCs were given the reservation of 27%. So in total, 49.5% reservation was being given to these communities on the social grounds. Now this thing was going on. And actually what happened, then government came with the 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act and provided that 10% reservation will be given on the economic criteria also, economically weaker section reservation, and therefore the reservation reached to 59.5%. This was the status. Now, actually, this 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act that came, it was challenged on the multiple grounds in the Supreme Court. Now, what were the challenges? Challenge number one was that actually it has breached the 50% cap, 50% limit. Now, when we talk about the 50% limit, there was the Indira Sahani case. There was the Indira Sahani case of 1992. In that particular case, Supreme Court provided that the maximum permissible reservation should not increase the 50% limit. But here we are now giving 59.5%. So it was said that 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act is violative of the Indira Sahani case. So therefore there was one challenge. Then second challenge that came here guys is that actually now listen very carefully, this additional 10% reservation that is given to the EWS, in this 10% reservation the SCs, STs, OBCs, they will not be included. Government's logic was this, that SC, STs and OBCs, they are already getting their respective reservation, and here also if they will be given the reservation, then the people, okay, who are EWS, they will not be able to get the benefit. So STs, STs and OBCs were not included, and now this particular thing was said that it is violative within it is violative of article number 14, violative of article number 15. Actually the entire right to equality has been violated here. Then the third challenge that was made on this particular ground was this. Guys, actually see this thing. The earlier reservation, now let me use a little thick pen. So earlier reservation that were we giving to the SC, STs and OBCs, that was based on the social criteria. And now a new criteria, that is the economic criteria. Economic criteria has been added. So the point came that does it goes in line with the basic structure of the constitution? So you might be knowing in 1973 we came out with the Keshwananda Bharti case, and in the Keshwananda Bharti case, okay, there was the basic structure doctrine that was elaborately discussed. So economic criteria is a new ground for giving the reservation. Up till now economic criteria was not a ground. Can economic criteria be the ground? Fine. Is it constitutionally valid to give, and will it not be violating the basic structure? Then fourth ground guys that actually came, see, Indira Sahani case, before that also the 10% reservation to the economically weaker section was given, and in the Indira Sahani case that was struck down, and now again this particular thing has been done. Okay, so it was said that will it be violative? Then the next challenge that came guys in this particular direction, this challenge was this. Actually when the EWS will also be provided the reservation, then actually even in the educational institution, and when EWS will also be provided the reservation, then guys at many places, even into the educational institution, the seats have to be reserved. Okay, so will it be impacting the rights of these institutions? Okay, so these are all the challenges that came in this particular direction, and on this particular matter this case was going on. So just you can see briefly the timeline if you want. So in 2019 Lok Sabha cleared this 103rd Constitutional Amendment Bill. Rajya Sabha also cleared it in 2019. Then the president also gave the assent to this particular bill, 103rd Constitutional Amendment Bill, and actually it became then act. Then the law got challenged in 2019 in the Supreme Court. Okay, and after that now the Supreme Court declined to state 10% AWS quota that was going on, and basically since then this particular case is going on. Now what has happened? finally the Supreme Court judgment has come, and Supreme Court judgment in the 3:2 ratio, okay, the Supreme Court has given their final ruling. So actually the majority, that is the three judges out of the five, three judges, they have said that EWS reservation is valid, it can continue. Okay, it is valid, it can continue. That is something that has happened. Now here we can see that certain changes have come. So guys, it is being called as a major paradigm shift. Why major paradigm shift? Because the definition of affirmative action or the grounds of the affirmative action has completely been now been reformed. I have told you already that when we talk about the reservation, now the reservation is being given solely onto the basis of the economic criteria. Okay, we have seen this particular thing that in the Indira Sahani case of 1992, Supreme Court judge bench upheld the OBC reservation, but it favored exclusion of advanced sections, fine, onto the economic criteria. Okay, at that point of a time, I also said that on economic criteria, 10% reservation was given. It was not allowed, but OBC reservation was allowed, and now the reversal has happened. So there is a paradigm shift that now we are seeing. Now, guys, understand this particular thing. Understand this particular thing that as we are talking about, now the question is coming. Now the question is coming that yes, now the question is coming that whether this particular Supreme Court judgment is correct on the stand that it has taken or not. Now see this particular thing. The logic behind the affirmative action, fine, is that it is being used as a tool for reparation to the groups that got excluded from the mainstream society. So I told you. So I told you that the scheduled caste people, they were not allowed to get study to get the studies. They were not allowed to do certain kind of an occupations because of the historical disabilities that was imposed on them. So to make over for that particular loss, the reservation is given. This was the logic that continued. Okay, and on this particular logic only, the reservations was given. Now, basically, actually, the judges who dissented, they have provided this thing that the exclusion of groups that already enjoy reservation, fine, violates the equality norm. So I told you okay, that in this EWS reservation, the SCs, STs, and OBCs will not be included. That is something that also have been upheld. So the dissenting judges, the two judges who dissented, they say that it is actually not correct because the equality is getting violated. Now, moreover, guys, the judges have also acknowledged that the parliament has the power to create a new set of criteria and to create a new type of affirmative action. So this time the parliament, I told you, use the economic criteria. So that is something which is in the purview of the power of the parliament. That is something that is being provided. Now, actually, the criticism also comes to this particular judgment. Now, guys, when we talk about the EWS criteria, so 8 lakh rupees per annum income limit has been taken. So, if your household, if your family income is less than the 8 lakh rupees per year, you can claim the EWS quota. Now, the question is coming that when we talk about the IT returns, fine, IT returns are mandatory or the incomes are taxable only when you are earning more than 2.5 lakh rupees. So if you are earning below 2.5 lakh rupees, fine, ITR or filing the tax is not there. Okay. Now the point that comes here, is that, guys, see this thing. Fine. Let me simplify this particular point to you. When we talk about the per capita income of India, it stands at around 1 lakh rupees. So the per capita income stands at around 1 lakh rupees. It simply means that majority of people are earning in this particular range. And here we have made 8 lakh rupees as a criteria. Under that, you can get the AWS reservation. So if a majority of people are earning per capita income of 1 lakh rupees, don't you think that almost all the people will come under this particular reservation umbrella? That can happen. Now we say that if you are earning less than 2.5 lakh rupees, you don't need to pay the taxes. Okay, so wouldn't it have been prudent that if we have been to around this particular level? Okay, so therefore it is being provided that actually such a high limit of 8 lakh rupees will virtually bring all the people under the EWS umbrella, and even the genuine people within the EWS will not be able to get the benefit because there will be a lot of crowding in that will happen in this particular reservation bracket. Moreover, guys, Then next thing that is being provided is that the judges, they have also talked about that in the long term we need to focus on ending the reservation system that has been there. So one of a Supreme Court judge remarked that at the end of 75 years of the independence, we need to revisit the entire system of reservation. Okay, now when we talk about reservation, you know this particular thing that the society is deeply divided onto the question of reservation. The Supreme Court has provided that we need to move towards a transformative constitutionalism. Now this word is very very important, transformative constitutionalism. It simply means that the constitution is a evolving and organic document, and it needs to change, it needs to adapt to itself with the changing times. So we need to go for the transformative constitutionalism. Fine. Now the Supreme Court judge provided this particular thing that at the 80 years of the commencement of the constitution, 80 years of the commencement of the constitution, that is by 2030, the Supreme Court and by 2030, the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe reservation into the Lok Sabha as well as the state legislative assembly will be ended. So this decade is the last decade till which the SCs and STs will be given reservation into the parliament, and the SLA, it will be ended. Then the Supreme Court judge also provided this thing that the Anglo-Indian community that were given the reservation into the parliament and the assemblies, that has already been stopped by the virtue of the 104 Constitutional Amendment Act that came. So the Anglo-Indian communities will not be given the reservation. The SCs and STs, their reservation in the parliament and SLA will be stopped by 2030. So slowly what we are doing, we are ending this reservation system, and we need to think that how in the jobs, how in the educational institution also it needs to be it needs to be brought. So this is something that is provided. One of a judge also provided that reservation is not an end. Reservation is a means to secure the social and economic justice, and reservation should not be allowed to become a vested interest. Real solution is development of people. Real solution is educational empowerment, removing the backwardness of the weaker section, weaker community. Is it clear or not? So that is something which is to be seen more. Okay, so in the long term we need to go for the development of the people, and the reservation as a concept needs to be removed. But one challenge I want to tell you guys here, don't you think if the economic criteria will be proved, then the reservation can never be removed? Why? Because why it cannot be removed? It is because all the time in the society somebody will be poor, somebody will be rich. Okay, so have and have nots will always be there. That has been the practical way in which the society is going to operate. But development, backwardness can be removed. Okay, backwardness can be removed. Okay, development can be brought. So if there would have been the social criteria on that particular ground, after 50-60 years we could have removed the reservation. But on economic criteria, removing it finally will become a really very difficult kind of thing. Okay, so that is all guys about this particular article, and beyond this guys, I don't really need that you need to go. However, for coming few days, again and again there will be the discussions, there will be the editorials that are going to come on this session. Now moving to the next article. Black Sea Grain Initiative. Black Sea Grain Initiative. So guys, this Black Sea Grain Initiative will see with respect to the prelims examination that what it is. Okay, and this Black Sea Grain Initiative also will see with respect to the GS paper number, just a minute, GS paper number 2 and GS paper number 3. GS paper number 2, issues of hunger, GS paper number 2, international agreements, international treaties, etc. We'll see this particular article. Now before going in this particular article guys, what actually has happened, there is this Black Sea grain deal, and this Black Sea grain deal has been rejoined by the Russia, and as Russia has rejoined this Black Sea grain deal, so let's see that what it is, how it is important, and how it can be how it can contribute in reducing the hunger. First of all, guys, right now you see this particular thing that there is a war that is going on between the Russia and Ukraine. Now, when we talk about the Ukraine is called as the bread basket of the world. Why bread basket of the world? Because Ukraine, it has a major contribution in wheat exports. So wheat exports, sunflower seeds, maize. These are some very important crops that are exported by the Ukraine. Now because of this war, what has happened, these exports came down, and in the world the concern of hunger, it increased. The food inflation actually it increased, and because the food inflation is increasing, hunger is increasing, it might impact world in a very negative manner. Now understand guys, here we have the sustainable developmental goal number 2, sustainable developmental goal number 2, which talks about the zero hunger. Now, as per the SDG goals, it is being provided that 821 million, 821 million people, 1 in the 9 people are undernourished, and 277 million people are undernourished only in the South Asia. And in this particular dimension, as more than 820 million people are facing as are facing the undernourishment, here the major suppliers of the food grains, if they will reduce the supplies, then the hunger will increase a lot, and we will not be able to eliminate the hunger by 2030, which is the SDG goal. That is something. Now guys, so therefore in order to tackle this particular thing, what happened, a deal was brokered, by the United Nations and Turkey, and this particular deal was signed in the Istanbul in July this particular year. And this particular deal provided that though even the Russia Ukraine war is going on, but the supply chains of the food should not be disturbed. So the Black Sea grain deal endeavors to tackle the escalating food prices. Okay, it aims to tackle the supply chain disruptions that is happening because of the Russia Ukraine war. And this particular deal provided, this particular grain deal provided that for a period of 120 days, Russia will not be restricting the shipments going from Ukraine, will not restrict the shipments going from Ukraine which are carrying the food products. It was provided that the Ukraine will be allowed to carry the exports of the food grain from 3 of its important ports. Now, what these ports are? Number 1 is the Chornomorsk, the second port is the Odessa port, and the third port is the UZ port, fine. It is also called as the Pivdeni port at some times. So from these three ports of the Ukraine, the exports of the food grains can be allowed. Russia will not deter that, and these ships will be provided a safe harbor, safe transit. Okay. Now when we talk about the Black Sea, guys, okay, when we talk about the Black Sea, in the Black Sea, Ukraine has many deep draft ports, and these ports Ukraine has used to supply the food grains to the Turkey, to the Europe, and to the other countries. So safe passage in this Black Sea is to be given. Now few days back, what happened, there was a issue that came that the Russia might withdraw from the Black Sea grain deal initiative, and then the exports of the food grain from Ukraine will not be possible. But the Russia has said now that we might suspend this particular deal for some time, but will not terminate it, will not end it. And Russia has now again rejoined this particular Black Sea grain deal. Now guys, when we talk about the Black Sea grain deal, now understand this particular thing, that these grains, corn, wheat, sunflower, barley, rapeseed, soybeans, they will be provided by Ukraine to the other world countries, and their shipments will not be stopped. Now when we talk about, guys, the Black Sea Grain Initiative, the Ukraine will supply the food to all the countries, low and lower middle income countries, fine, upper middle income countries, high income countries. So all these countries will be provided the food grains. Okay. Now, understand this particular thing. The central idea behind this particular deal is to calm down the markets by ensuring an adequate supply of grains. You know this particular thing, guys, that often price is attribute of demand and supply. If the demand of a particular thing will increase and the supply will reduce, then the price will go high. Right now the food inflation is also being driven because of these particular factors. Demand is actually the same, but the supply has reduced down, so therefore the prices got increased. So in order to calm down these food prices, this particular initiative got started. Is it clear or not? Now if we talk about, guys, the deals suspension, it might have led to many of the problems. It could have particularly impacted the West Asia, African countries. Moreover, recently we have seen this particular thing, that the global hunger index was released, and even into the global hunger index, the alarming situation into the sub-Saharan Africa with respect to the food has been very clearly highlighted. Recently also, the multidimensional poverty index that got released, multidimensional poverty index specifically provided that in the absolute number, most number of poor people are now living into the sub-Saharan Africa, and in that, if the food grains would not have come, the countries of the West Asia, Africa, fine, Africa, such as the Sudan, Yemen, they would be the one who would have got impacted in a negative way. And again, it would also have impacted the Sustainable Developmental Goal number 20, hunger. So therefore, this Black Sea Grain Deal initiative is important, and now Russia has again resumed in that. So that is all, guys, about it. I hope that you have understood it. And now we'll move to the next article. Okay, so here actually we can see an important case study, and this particular thing, guys, can be used in the society and the social justice answers also. Let me tell you what is the issue that's happening, and then we'll try to make sense of both these articles together. Okay, first of all, this particular article we'll see with respect to ethics case study, ethics case study, plus the issues of the social justice in GS paper number 1, in GS paper number 1, in GS paper number 2. Now, before going in this particular article, let me give you some of a background, and after understanding this background, we'll go in this particular article. So basically, guys, when we talk about the children, children are often vulnerable on many of the factors. They are vulnerable because they are very prone to child labor. Their sexual abuse can happen. Their special needs, if they are not catered, they are vulnerable. And when we talk about the children's vulnerability, see, children's sexual abuse is one of the most significant factor of their vulnerability. Okay, to deal with this particular issue, actually government has come out with a specific law, that is the POCSO Act of 2012. POCSO stands for Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. And POCSO Act simply provides this particular thing, that the age of consent will be 18 years. It simply means that a person of 18 years or more can only give the consent to involve in a sexual activity, in a sexual intercourse. It simply means that, let's say, if a 17-year girl even gives the consent and gets involved in a sexual intercourse with another person, then that thing will not be seen as a consentful sex, rather it will be seen as a rape, it will be seen as a sexual assault. You getting the point or not? So below the 18 years, a person cannot involved in the sexual intercourse. That particular thing has been provided under the POCSO. Moreover, guys, POCSO provides this particular thing, that any person doing any sexual activity with any person of less than 18 years, there will be the stringent punishments that will be given. And into the POCSO Act, there is even the provision of the death penalty that can be given in the particular cases of the child sexual abuse. So this POCSO law is there, which specifically deal with the sexual abuse of the children. Now, guys, as the POCSO law goes on, there are some problems that are coming with the application of this particular law. Now, you see this particular thing, there is no problem in the law. Law is very forward looking, but it actually brings the social problems. Let's understand this thing. So one case study is there. Actually, what is happening? When we talk about the Nilgiris, in the Nilgiris, the Toda tribes live. In the Nilgiri, the Toda tribes live. And in the Toda tribes, the child marriages are prevalent from a long period of time. So basically, guys, it's being just a minute. So actually what is happening, child marriages are prevalent among the Adivasi groups into the Nilgiris. Most of the times the boys and the girls of 17 or 18 years, either they get married or they are involved sometimes in a kind of a physical sexual relation. That if that is going on, then that boys are most of the time being arrested under the POCSO. So basically what happens, see this thing, what happens, see, that the tribal people, the early marriages often is prevalent into the tribal people. And when these early marriages are happening, the tribal boys find they are also carrying the sexual intercourse with the women. Okay, Now basically what happened, when the women get married and when she goes to the nurse or when she goes for the institutional delivery, and if the nurse or the doctor they come to know about the age of that woman, that the woman is actually less than 18 years of age, then what they do, they file a complaint against the boy or against the husband under the POXO Act, because the, I told you, before 18 years sexual intercourse cannot be done and will be called as a rape. So what happened, these boys are getting arrested and they don't even know that why they are getting arrested. Guys, understand these things, that the tribal people, the awareness level is very much low. They don't know about these particular legal systems, and actually it is the part of their cultural practices in hundreds and hundreds of the years that they are involving in such kind of an arrangement. Okay, so therefore now what is happening, many of these boys are languishing into the jail, and the point that's come is that after 20-25 years, when they'll be released out of the jail, till that particular time they will lose their entire youth, they will not be able to involve in an economic activity. Moreover, they might become even more ardent criminals into the jail, because you know this particular thing, that on the social reform the attention is very much less into the jails. Now it is being provided that often whenever such kind of a issue is coming, to strengthen the case, the local police uses the terms such as the repeated sexual assault. Fine, repeated sexual assault, but in reality the sexual intercourse happened between the girl and the boy with the consensus, but the law doesn't provides the authority to give the consent before the 18 years of age. So that is something that is happening now, guys. Taking the cognizance of this particular thing, many of the social right activists have raised this particular matter, that into the POXO there needs to be some special provisions for the tribal people, or on the age of consent we need to deal it with in a different manner. Now you see this particular thing, recently what happened, the High Court of Karnataka, because of this particular thing, had actually asked the, said to the law commission that we need to rethink the age of criteria in the POXO law for having the consensual sexual intercourse, because many number of times there are the love affairs that are going on between the boys and the girls of around 17-18 years, and as a part of these love affairs many a times such sexual intercourses also happen. But in that particular case, the consent was given by the girl, and even that boy was not knowing about the law. So either we need to deal this age of consent in a different manner, or at least we need to sensitize the boys about the existence of this particular law. So the court has also directed the state education department that it needs to establish a mechanism for educating the students after the class ninth, so that they know about the POXO Act, they know about the provisions of the IPC Act and the consequences of the sexual intercourse even after the consent if it is being done. So guys, this is something that's the concern. Now one particular dimension I want to talk here. One particular dimension I want to talk here. See this particular thing, that when we talk about, guys, the law, when we talk about the law is often based on the argument of rationality, but rationality sometimes might not be there in some of the traditional communities and some of the traditional practices followed by the traditional communities. So there the application of law needs to be more sensitive, in the same way as the law is being applied to the educated mainstreamed section society. In the similar way it cannot be applied onto the vulnerable sections, because then it will lead to injustice. So this particular thing is needed to be tackled in a different manner. So that is all, guys, about this particular article, and I hope you have understood, and it actually can be a case study which on which the question can be framed. Now moving to the next article, the frontliners of the first 1,000 days windows of life. Now this particular article, guys, will see with respect to GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, social justice, GS paper number 2, social justice. Within the social justice, maternal health and the child health. We'll see this particular article. Now the article actually is talking about that we need to focus on to the optimal maternal nutrition during the first 1,000 days of life. Okay, that is from conception to 2 years of the child life. Now see this particular thing, guys. Actually the time when a woman becomes the pregnant, the time when the woman becomes the pregnant, from that particular time 1,000 days are very much crucial for the mother, for the child, for the mother, for the child. and in this particular time the interventions become very much important. Now it has been provided that just by focusing on the good nutrition in the first 1000 days, the child death can be reduced, diseases can be prevented, malnutrition can be prevented, the brain development of the child can be enhanced. See this particular thing, 80% of the brain develops in the first 1000 days of life, and if the brain development is proper, then for the lifelong learning the child will be equipped. So therefore here a special attention is needed to be given. Government is running multiple schemes for addressing the nutrition of the mother as well as the newly born child. For example, there is the Prime Minister's overarching scheme for holistic nutrition, that is the PM Poshan, that is going on now. In basically government is focusing on that, government is also focusing that by the different mechanisms, delivery of the food grain needs to be there, fine, community mobilization needs to be there, people need to be made aware about the food and all such kind of things. Now actually government is providing that the registration of pregnancies has been made mandatory. Antenatal care checkups are being given. Antenatal care checkup is that after the pregnancy healthcare checkups are provided. So antenatal care checkups are being provided. Exclusive breastfeeding, it is being emphasized into the mothers. Fine, then all these particular kind of things have actually happening. And actually what has happened, because these things are being focused, there is considerable improvement also compared to 2015 and 16. So on all the factors, breastfeeding, okay, antenatal checkups, registration of pregnancies, of all these particular things have increased. Then moving on, basically guys, the article, it talks about that there are certain interventions which can be done and which can bring a lot of result also. For example, evidence based interventions are needed to be given. What are the evidence based interventions? All those interventions which have shown the result into the past, they needs to be carried. Now it has been provided that the first 1000 days are very much important, and in this particular direction the periconception or the preconception is also very important. Now what is the preconception? So preconception is the period of 3 to 4 months prior to conception or prior to conceiving a child. So guys, when the women becomes pregnant 3 to 4 months before that, it is the preconception period. Now in the preconception period, if the women's weight is in considerable in a healthy range, if the women's hemoglobin level is in the healthy range, then in the conception during the pregnancy the women will be healthy, the child will be healthy. Now in this particular direction guys, in 2018, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, in along with the Maharashtra and UNICEF, announced a kind of a health intervention program, where the women's health during the preconception period was promoted. That is 3 to 4 months before the pregnancy, women health was promoted, and that particular thing has shown a considerable result, a considerable improvement. Now today when we talk about guys the preconception period or the pregnancy period, there the ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, auxiliary nurse, midwives, they can play a very important role. They can educate the women about their health during preconception period, during pregnancy period. So and these Anganwadi workers, ASHA workers, they are the first point to promote the basic nutrition, they are the first point to educate them. So they are needed to be they are needed to be incentivized, so that actually they deliver this education, this wisdom to the women. Now see, actually, the Uttar Pradesh's case study has been given in the article. So the Poshan Pakhwada was organized in Uttar Pradesh in 2022, and in this Poshan Pakhwada, what happened? Um, what happened, the parents were nudged that they should weight their children. Now there are some superstitions, old age fear, that no, the children should not be weighed down, but the Anganwadi workers, the health workers, they emphasize that you please weight the children. And from time to time when the children's weight was checked, actually the parents were able to find that whether the children are gaining the healthy weight or not. If not, then the interventions can be made, and that particular thing has actually helped in improving the health conditions of the children. Moreover guys, when the weights are being done, the parents, the fathers particularly, were involved in this particular thing, and it has been seen that when the fathers got involved into the process of pregnancy or into the parentage, then actually more emphasis has been given even onto the mother. It has been provided that mothers, fine, and other if mothers and other relatives, and if the fathers are enlightened about the benefits of regular weight measures, if men particularly gets involved into the pregnancy of the women, then there is 1.5 times more possibility that the prenatal care, okay, or the care into the first trimester to the women will be given. So involving the father in the process is very important. Now, basically, guys, when we talk about the Anganwadi workers, okay, they should be given the growth monitoring devices. They should be given the training that how they can measure the weight of a child and can make interventions if the healthy weight gain is not there. So when we talk about the frontline workers, the ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, these frontline workers are now to be incentivized more so that they can strengthen the health system, the nutrition system, and can focus on more in more way onto the health of the mother and the child. So this is, guys, all about this particular article, and now we'll move to the next article. India's G20 presidency and food security. Okay, India's G20 presidency and food security. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 1 and GS paper number 2, issues of hunger. Issues of hunger. Okay. Now actually, guys, when we talk about the G20, when we talk about the G20, that is the group of 20 countries. Okay, now the G20 happens to be an important association of the country which focuses on the developmental issues, issues related to the hunger, poverty, and all those kind of things. G20 has emphasized considerably. Now for the 2023, India is going to become the president of the G20, and actually, as India will become the president of the G20, it is a historical opportunity for India, that India can share with the world as how India itself has fought the problem of hunger in our own country. Actually, what happened? What happened in 2021? There was the Matera Declaration that was adopted. This in the Matera Declaration, what happened? The G20 ministers, they have provided poverty alleviation, food security, and sustainable food systems. Developing the sustainable food systems can effectively end hunger. Moreover, in the Matera Declaration, when we talk about the Matera Declaration, fine, it is provided that helping the medium farmers, promoting the local food cultures, recognizing the agricultural diversity. This is also something which is very much crucial, to ending the hunger. Now when we talk about the India, actually, guys, India can teach the world, because since independence, India has initiated many policy measures. We came with the land reforms, we did a lot of investment in the agriculture, fine, we actually built the systems, okay, in the agricultural research, agricultural services, farmer empowerment, and today, guys, we are actually able to provide the food, to large number of people, and the hunger has been effectively been tackled in the India. Actually, the most important law that provided the food security to India was the National Food Security Act of 2013. National Food Security Act of 2013, which have provided the guaranteed food allocations to the priority households. Households are provided 5 kg of food grain per person per month at very subsidized price. 3 rupees kg rice, 2 rupees kg wheat, and 1 rupee kg coarse grains. So under the National Food Security Act, 66% people in the entire country, fine, just a minute, in under the National Food Security Act, 75% people into the rural India, 50% people into the urban India, and if we talk about the pan India, 66% people are provided the guaranteed food grains. Fine, this is something that we have done. Moreover, we came with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, where 5 kg additional food grain were provided during the time of the pandemic. 80 crore people got covered under this. So during the COVID-19, because of government interventions, fine, we were able to avoid the supply chain disruptions. We were able to avoid the hunger, distribution systems, PDS, etc. All the things were going on. Now, actually, the Matera Declaration has also provided that the international trade is also very much important for the food grains. Actually, I have discussed with the today Black Sea Grain Initiative that when these restrictions will come into the international trade, the food availability will reduce and it will drive the food inflation in that entire world, which is not something which is something very much detrimental to the hunger targets. Fine. Now, actually, what happened? India also imposed the ban on the wheat and rice few months back. Why it imposed the ban onto the wheat and rice? Because guys, in India also the food inflation was increasing. So this is something that should not be done, because Matera Declaration specifically provided that international trade in the food and grain should continue in order to tackle the hunger. Now, the G20 presidency, I told you, India is going to become the G20 president for the 2023, and there India has an opportunity to fast track the food processes, food commitments. Okay, find through the UN Food System Summit. Now, when we talk about the UN Food System Summit, UN Food System Summit specifically focuses on the five action tracks. What are these? Ensure access to safe and nutrition food for all, shift to sustainable consumption, boost nature positive production, advance equitable livelihood, and build resilience for the vulnerable. These are the five targets of the UN Food System Summit. So, as India will become the G20 president, India through this UN Food System Summit also can mobilize the efforts of the world countries. Okay, now right now we see this particular thing that the war is going on in the Ukraine, and though the Black Sea Grain Initiative is there, and by the Black Sea Grain Initiative the Ukraine is trying to provide the food grains to the other countries, but still it has impacted the food exports by Russia and Ukraine. The numbers in which the food grains were coming earlier, that is not the case. So we need to deal with this particular issue also. Now, moving on to the next article, the age of minimalism in India Pakistan ties. Okay, the age of minimalism in India Pakistan ties. Okay, guys, just one thing I want to share today. Actually, guys, I am not able to take the doubts that are coming into the today's session. It's because that just after this I have class. Okay, so because of that I might not be able to take the doubts for today, but you can reach me on Telegram. Okay, or I will be taking all the doubts positively in the tomorrow's session. Okay, now, the age of minimalism in the India-Pakistan ties. This particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, International Relation, India-Pakistan Relations. Now, the article is talking about that when we talk about the India-Pakistan relation, when we talk about the India-Pakistan relation, it is a very different kind of relation. In the relation, there always have been the intense engagements. There is the high value terror attacks that are happening. There are the confrontations. There are the negotiations that are going on. And into the past, what has happened? Sometimes we are trying to we are trying to negotiate something. We are negotiating peace. We are doing something actually, but now we find this particular thing that actually a kind of a minimalism has been reached into the India Pakistan relations. Now we are not interacting too much with the Pakistan. Where this particular thing started, actually the Uri terror attacks were made in 2016. After that, there was a surgical strike that was done by the India. Then guys, in 2019 also there were the Pulwama attacks that had happened, and since then the negotiations, the discussions, the engagements between the India and Pakistan, they have come to a flat. Those intense engagements that were there earlier, now they are not being carried. And it can be seen that actually India has understood that it is very much futile to involve with the Pakistan, because the Pakistan is never going to mend their ways. Okay, now we see this particular thing that actually right now the interlocutors, fine, they have adopted a clinical approach. Okay, they only discuss those matters which require the urgent attention. Only those matters are being discussed. Other matters about cooperation, about ties, okay, or about some other things, they are not being discussed. Fine, so this is something that's going on. Now, moving on, the article talks about that why this present age of minimalism has come. So there are actually the five reasons that have been provided that why the age of minimalism has come. Okay, these are number one, guys, when we talk about the India Pakistan relation, there is the history of the missed opportunities. Many a number of times both the countries have tried to interact, had tried to build a kind of an enabling framework, but nothing came out of that. So because of that history of the missed opportunities, there is the frustration that has developed. Then the next thing is that there is a recognition between both the countries that when we talk about the conflict resolution, there is no easy way to actually resolve the conflicts. The issues such as the Jammu and Kashmir, these are actually far more complicated. Okay, there is actually no other thing, but it is the fact that Pakistan has illegally captured the Kashmir territory of the India. Okay, but the Pakistan at the same time has their own interpretation. So these matters are very complicated. They cannot get resolved. So why to waste energy in that? Then the third thing that is coming here is that basically, traditionally, India's viewpoint was that India need to first settle its disputes with the Pakistan and then should move to the other countries. But now India has abandoned that particular thing because, guys, into the past, none of the bilaterals agreements have been settled. So India has abandoned that we can actually solve the Pakistan problem. The next thing is that actually, when we talk about the Kashmir, often in the past it has been seen that in order to stabilize the Kashmir, we need to bring the Pakistan in between because Pakistan is the exporter of terror in the Kashmir. But over the past actually over the past 2 years, India is now slowly getting the confidence that we can manage the Kashmir without bringing the Pakistan into the matrix. So by the deterrence and by the strong vigilance, we can control the Kashmir as well, and we don't need Pakistan. And then the next thing that is coming is that actually both the countries, India and Pakistan, are preoccupied with their own issues. The Pakistan is occupied with the Taliban Afghanistan, and India is occupied with the China. So because of this particular thing, the age of minimalism has reached between both of these countries. Okay, that is all about this article. And now the next article, India on incorporation needs demand revival to boost investments. So basically, guys, the article is talking about that into the past, there are the tax cuts that have been given by the government. Government expects that the private sector invest more money, but actually we find this particular thing that the investment by the private sector is not coming. Actually, the private sector has made the windfall profits during the time of pandemic. Windfall profits means the excessive profits they have made, but still they are not increasing the investment. And finance minister had said that that is not the correct thing. The investment is to be increased. Now the article is talking about that what is the reason that the private sector is not increasing the investment. It is because there is a slowdown into the demand side of the economy. See this particular thing. If consumers will not demand, why the private sector will increase the investment into the plant? Suppose I am having a plant manufacturing 1,000 units of shoes. If there is a demand of only 5,000, why I'll expand my factory furthermore to produce the 20,000 units of shoes? So private sector is not coming in India right now only because of the one reason, and that reason is the slowdown into the demand. So first we need to focus on increasing the demand. Okay, that is something. Now in the article, guys, basically the numbers have been given. For example, investment project as a percentage of GDP, they have declined. Fine. Corporate and income tax as a percentage of GDP, corporate tax declined. Fine. So these particular things have been provided. Now you don't need to go in these particular charts and need to track the chart one by one. Just the important message is there which we need to see, that right now the investments are not coming. It's because the demand is subdued, and when till the time demand will not be increased, private sector will not increase whatever tax cut you give them, whatever incentive you give them. Okay, now moving to the next article. Electoral bond scheme amended from tomorrow. Amended sale from tomorrow. So guys, recently, now this particular article will see with respect to the prelims as well as the GS paper number 2, issues of elections. Now what has happened? Guys, recently the central government has amended the electoral bond scheme. Now what the central government has provided? Central government have provided simply that in the years when the election are there, for 15 days more, the electoral bonds can be sold. So extra 15 days for the electoral bond sales have been given. Now we see this particular thing that the impending elections are there into the Gujarat. Okay, so because of that particular thing, 15 days extra has been given for selling the electoral bond. That is something that has come. Now guys, what is electoral bond? Electoral bond is an interest-free banking instrument. So a person can go to the State Bank of India, can buy, can deposit the money, let's say 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore, whatever you have. You can deposit the money. In exchange, you will get a document, that is the electoral bond. That electoral bond can be given to a political party, and that political party can redeem that particular electoral bond, fine, for the money in their bank account, So this is the electoral bond scheme. Now the electoral bond will be valid for 15 calendar days. I have bought electoral bond. Within 50 days, I have to give it to the political party, and political party have to redeem it. After 15 days, they'll not be valid. Now, Election Commission and the opposition parties have said that electoral bond schemes actually allow for the anonymous donations into the political parties. See this thing. When I'm buying the electoral bond, there is no name of me on that electoral bond. And then when I give that electoral bond to the political party, they also not be having that particular name on the electoral bond. And actually, a lot of anonymous funding will go into the politics. Are you getting it or not? So people, okay, now guys, you know that this particular thing, that often there is a large money that is going to the politics or to the political parties. Okay, now often these people who are donating, they might have their vested interest. They might not be, they don't want to reveal their identity to the public. Even the political parties sometimes don't want to reveal that the type of people they are having connections with. So these people can donate by the electoral bond. So in the past, electoral bond has been criticized also a lot. Okay, so that is also something that you need to remember. Okay, that is all. Now guys, the next article. So here guys, actually the two of the similar articles are there. Both are talking about the COP27 that is going on. Corporate or perish, we are on a highway to climate hell. So actually both the articles are simply giving one message, that the planet is approaching to the tipping points. If we don't focus now, then a climate chaos will come. Irreversible damage will come. So the article, basically what has happened, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres had said this thing, that we are not onto the path to curb the temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius. So we have taken the target into the Paris that will not will basically will take the efforts and will make sure that the climate doesn't increases more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. But we are not on that particular path. Global temperature is increasing, and because of that particular thing, we are onto the path of destruction. So we need to act. We need to act immediately. This is just, guys, the two-line concept that has been given. Now you see this particular thing, when this COP27 will be over, we'll see it in much more detail. So every day you don't need to track that. Fine. When it will be over, we'll see all the takeaways. Fine. Now the mains practice question for today. So question says, to address the persistent high burden of malnutrition, discuss the policy and program efforts taken by India. So article taken from the Frontline Worker editorial. So this will be a 10-marker question, important for GS paper number 2, issues of hunger. Fine, you can write it. So guys, that is all about this session today. And guys, if you have liked, please do hit the like button. Okay, so please don't be very much conservative. Fine, be liberal in giving the likes and the comments. However, I really appreciate all the support that you show to the channel. Your likes, your comments, all of them are really